Here are 10 key takeaways if you want to be a people manager. And spoiler alert, a lot of the skills you build as an ICPM directly translate over to being a people manager as well. Today, we're going to talk about a well-known book written by VP of Product Design at Facebook, Julie Zhou, called The Making of a Manager. She has a pretty large following on Twitter and is considered fairly prominent in tech circles. This book has a lot of applicable lessons for PMs, whether you're an IC or a people manager, so we're going to go over the key takeaways from her book. Now, what this video is not going to do is give a chapter by chapter summary. You can find that on websites like SparkNotes. But before we do that, welcome to Liftoff PM. My name is Kevin Wei, a senior product manager at Amazon, and on this channel, I share my PM interviewing tips and career strategies with you. I recently landed offers from FAANG and top startups, and I spent the last 3 years helping PMs land great offers as an interview coach. We have free lessons on this channel, and if you want access to our complete paid course, click the link below. We know there are a lot of courses out there, but you can think of our course as an accelerated program where we share everything we've learned from years of coaching clients like you to ace PM interviews. And we'll continue to make free content, so an easy way to support is to just like this video and subscribe. Now let's get into it. Takeaway 1, the job of a manager. Julie puts it very nicely. She says, your job as a manager is to get better outcomes from a group of people working together. She highlights the challenge in the mindset shift required to let go of hands-on tasks and rather focus on overall team success instead. I thought this was interesting because in addition to learning how to delegate as a manager, even as an ICPM, you need to learn how to delegate as you grow in seniority. Just like an IC, delegating doesn't absolve you of the responsibility. Rather, delegating helps you scale yourself and your team in a way that puts the broader vision in a better place for success. Another thing to consider is, do you want to be a manager? Previously, becoming a manager was the only viable way to grow in one's PM career. But more and more, there are PM career paths for folks who don't want to be people managers. For example, at Google, there are L7 and L8 ICs equivalent to Group PM and Director of Product. They take on ambitious projects like those in the generative AI space. Julie calls out 2 things. 1, are you willing to be present for emotionally challenging personal situations? And 2, are you willing to spend most of your day in meetings? Lucky for you as a PM, you probably are already used to the second one. So ask yourself, is this really the job you want? Takeaway 2, the tasks of a manager. A manager's daily tasks can be grouped into 3 buckets. 1, purpose. What outcome is your team trying to accomplish? Everyone needs to be able to answer, why does our work matter? Your job as a manager is to ensure your team knows what success looks like and cares about achieving it. 2, people. Your job as a manager is to ensure that you hire the right people and create an environment where they can grow and thrive. 3, process. When you're coordinating the work for a group of people, process is inevitable. And with more people, the more process you need. Julie mentioned that she learned a lot about what makes a manager on the job. And this is really heartening for ICs who want to become managers for the first time because as an IC, you already know how to learn on the job. Another thing Julie highlighted is that in your first 3 months, really focus on developing relationships and don't feel like you have to jump in right away and fix things. Hopefully by now you're starting to notice that a lot of the best practices as an ICPM also apply to being a people manager. Takeaway 3, what makes a good manager? Managers should be evaluated on 2 things. 1, outcomes. In what way did they make the company and its customers more successful? And 2, team satisfaction. Is the team happy, working well together, and is the manager doing a good job of hiring and developing individuals? Julie says that part of being a good manager is managing yourself. It's likely that new managers face imposter syndrome. For example, it's very difficult to practice managerial skills. You can't practice firing someone, which adds to this state of uncertainty, but managing large groups of people is impossible if you can't manage your own behavior. So how do you overcome this? Cliche but true, Julie says accepting yourself is the only way. There isn't one leadership personality type. She quotes that you can come across extroverts like Churchill, introverts like Lincoln, or someone avoiding attention like Gates. But accepting and knowing yourself helps you understand yourself at your best and your worst too, so that you can recognize when you're the most and least effective. Takeaway 4: how to help people do great work. You can also think about this as what gets in the way of doing good work. Either they don't know how to do good work. This is usually because the person lacks the training they need or doesn't know what the expectations are. Another big part is providing the environment and training where people can improve their skills and understand what is expected in the role. A bit more on expectations, since it was a big part of the book. Your job as a manager is to set clear expectations for each direct report before any work begins. Right up front, you should define 3 things. 1, what a great job looks like versus just an okay job or a bad job. 2, what advice do you have to get started on the right foot? And 3, common pitfalls to avoid. Or the other thing is, they know how to do good work, but they aren't motivated. For example, they aren't on board with what's being asked of them to do, and a huge part of management is inspiring people. If employees aren't bought into the purpose, people will trudge along and you won't get the best work out of them. A common misconception is that being inspirational is something innate, and this isn't true. Being inspirational is a skill you build just like anything else. And again, you'll notice that this skill is something you should already be building as a part of your IC career. IC PMs can't get anything done if the team around them is not inspired and moving in the same direction. Takeaway 5, getting things done. Part of building a high-performing team is setting folks up to get things done. Set a vision. A key point in this vision must be concrete. It can't be squishy or vague. It should be bold. It should be instantly clear whether you've accomplished it. For example, compare a political vision like America will get wealthier to a chicken in every pot. You know you've done a good job defining the vision if you can ask 5 team members what the vision is and they all say the same thing. To get here, Julie says, describe over and over again the world you'd like to see. Try to connect every task, project, description, or goal with the organization's higher purpose. Process is critical here. There won't be many light bulb moments. It's more about experimenting, staying curious, and doubling down on what works. Taking a process that worked well on a previous team may not translate over exactly. Focus on doing few things well and take a portfolio approach that balances short-term and long-term needs. Your approach should acknowledge your team's strengths and weaknesses too. And here, speed matters, so move fast. Establish a culture where collective learning and resilience is critical. A key quote, at the end of the day, a resilient organization is not one that never makes mistakes, but rather one whose mistakes make it stronger over time. Takeaway 6, the role of trust. All relationships are based on trust. If your employees don't trust you or you don't trust them, you obviously can't work together well. To build trust, you genuinely need to care about your employees. And again, ask yourself if genuinely caring for people, their dreams and motivations, their problems, etc., if all this is the job you want. Are you willing to be equally vulnerable? She says, you'll know you have a trusting relationship when your reports regularly bring their biggest challenges to your attention. Julie says, a hallmark of a trusting relationship is that people feel like they can share their mistakes, challenges, and fears with you. You and your reports regularly give each other critical feedback and don't take it personally. And your reports would gladly work for you again. Another salient quote. You have more impact on their day-to-day than they have on yours. This means the responsibility of building a trusting relationship lies more with you than them. Takeaway 7, the role of feedback. Think about how you probably always want more feedback. Your direct reports probably also almost always want feedback, and you're probably not giving them enough of it. Make sure to give at least 2 kinds of feedback. 1, task-specific feedback. Provide detailed feedback on specific tasks as soon as you can and as soon after the task is completed as possible. Here, your goal is to help the person get better at that specific type of task. And 2, behavior feedback. Provide higher level feedback on the themes and patterns you see across many tasks regularly, but don't do this quite as often and do it more thoughtfully. This feedback is on the employee's skills and career trajectory and often indicates how you will evaluate them on their performance. So, while it's incredibly important to provide, and many managers do fail to do this, it can also be much more sensitive. So, make sure you think through what you want to say and have plenty of examples to back up what you're saying. Also, aim to give a healthy amount of positive feedback. It's just as important for someone to know what they're doing well so they can keep doing it as it is for them to know how to improve. Takeaway 8, delivering feedback effectively. Julie says, when something isn't broken, we accept that it's good enough, so why say more? This is probably one of the worst approaches a manager can take. Giving feedback is a central aspect of management, and not giving it means not caring more about your team members. Giving feedback is hard, and it's easy for intention to mismatch with what is heard and internalized. A few ways to give better feedback. Make it clear that you care about the person you're talking to and want them to succeed. Share feedback with a sense of curiosity. Repeat the message many times, like sharing a vision. It often takes multiple times for someone to hear something as you intended and to actually internalize it. Follow up to see if you were heard. At the end of the conversation, say something to the effect of, let's make sure we're on the same page. What are your key takeaways and next steps? Takeaway 9, managers as coaches. One helpful reframe from the book is to see your manager as a coach rather than as a boss. Many people work with their managers solely as authority figures. The feeling is, oh, I don't want to mess up. I don't want them to see any weaknesses and think I'm incompetent. But this rarely leads to a healthy relationship. In fact, it may be a self-fulfilling prophecy. You might be struggling, you refuse to ask for help, so you keep struggling and you never get better, and ultimately you're seen as struggling. Just like an athlete who would not try to hide weaknesses from their coach, you shouldn't try to hide struggles from your manager. Takeaway 10, hiring tips. Hiring is a skill you will probably have to build from scratch as a new people manager. You probably interviewed candidates before, but hiring is a full-time project. Look for advocates, not consensus. When interviewing a candidate, don't use consensus to make the hiring decision. If everyone's saying hire, but no one is really enthusiastic, this often leads to weak hires who don't perform all that well. Instead, look for one or more passionate advocates who feel strongly about hiring the candidate and are willing to go to bat for them. That's a stronger signal of a strong hire. Build a great relationship with recruiting. If you aren't a strong team and you aren't aligned on what you're looking for, it's going to be a painful and a long process. Play the long game. Build great relationships with potential candidates. Even if they don't join your team this time, careers are long and you may run into them again on another team or later on in your career. This is one of the highest points of leverage you can have as a manager. Julie says, as a manager, one of the smartest ways to multiply your team's impact is to hire the best people and empower them to do more and more until you stretch their limits and capabilities. All right, now in summary, The Making of a Manager talks about how to transition from individual contributor to people management. And you can see a lot of the skills you have as an ICPM, like inspiring teammates, setting a strategy and vision, setting expectations, and building relationships, all of these things translate well to people management. There are a few key differences, though, between ICing and people management to consider, like the depth that you will be involved with someone's personal life, hiring, and being responsible with outcomes rather than just effort. All right, let us know what other books you want to hear about. We're going to be doing more of these book summaries. Maybe we'll turn this into like a Liftoff PM book club. Good luck with any upcoming PM interviews, and click the link below to access our comprehensive paid PM interview course. This is the same advice we give our students, and it's helped many of them land their dream PM jobs at FAANG companies and top startups. We'll see you in the next video.